I'm going to read what we wrote on the generalities, but I think there's some here from either CHP or the first responders that maybe could tell a little bit of more of a story to the people, both here in the audience and at home. Pardon?
Yeah.
And I think maybe you should read that first.
Item 24, Supervisors Briggs and Veerkamp recommending the board recognize Mark Divittorio for his extraordinary acts of courage on April 4th, 2013 as part of the efforts to rescue the Lemler family from the American River.
So, I've known Mark since he was really little, and his mom, Mitzi, was always a good friend of mine. And I remember that swim team, and when I read what happened from the Mountain Democrat, I thought, wow, really? We did this? I don't know if I would. I could. So, I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of what happened, and I'd like somebody, maybe a couple guys, if you can, come up and tell the tale. On Thursday, April 4th, 2013, the Lemler family's vehicle plunged into the South Fork of the American River. The vehicle was submerged and on its side with 3 young daughters on the roof. Mr. Lemler was strapped inside, Mrs. Lemler working to keep it, Mr. Lemler. All right, Brenda. It says Mrs. Lemler working to keep his, so it's working to keep her head above water. I hope this doesn't read right. They were trapped. The kids were on the roof. Mark Divittorio was kayaking along the same portion of the river and was able and willing to assist the family by carrying Lemler's 3 daughters to the shore for safety. And then he aided the local fire and public people in response to the rescue and getting the 2 family members out. I believe Mr. Lemler is still, I think they're all alive. I think Mr. Lemler is still in the hospital.
Yes.
So that's as far as I get with the story. Any fire guys or safety guys want to come up? Come on. Help me out. This is a good story.
Mike Hardy, Acting Fire Chief, Dorado County Fire. I was not at the scene, but I did get notified soon after the call came in that morning that we had a vehicle accident up Highway 50, a vehicle into the river. And as you know, we do get those periodically, and in many cases, it does not end well, especially with the vehicle in the water. As many of you probably know, that stretch of the river along Highway 50 there runs fast and high and cold, especially during the wintertime. So, my concerns obviously are raised when our responders are called to such an incident. But and then as I was being appraised of the incident, I was told that there was a first responder kayaker that was in the water and essentially rescued the family. And my first thought was a kayaker at that time of year in that water, interesting. But be as it may, Mark was in the right place at the right time. He did not have to engage, although he did. And essentially, as you pointed out, essentially rescue the family to the shore, where when our engine company and when our medics got there, we were able to perform some advanced life support and actually get them to the hospital. But again, just to take the steps, the courage that it took to initiate and do what he did, I'm very happy that he's able to be recognized for his actions. And as the fire chief of the Dorado County Fire Department, I would like to personally thank him, and very deserving of this award. So thank you.
Thanks, I really appreciate it.
Mark, stop over here.
I really appreciate this, everybody. Thank you for the kind words and the recognition, and I feel very fortunate to have been able to help this family. and that it all ended well. So thank you all very much. Really appreciate you.
Some
All
John
of
Wayne
this.
stuff.
Sorry?
That was some John Wayne stuff, Mark.
Can you describe a little bit what you saw as you came upon this scene? I mean, what was, how did it unfold in front of you here?
Well, I had just finished kayaking that day,
All right.
and I was pulled up onto shore, and I had actually spotted someone on the side of the road talking on their cell phone. And I was kayaking by myself that day, and I thought I might ask her for a
So
ride.
that's right. You were in the river in a kayak.
I was still,
Going down the
yeah,
river. Okay,
yeah.
and
but
you
it
see
was
somebody's
the
cell
end of
phone, right?
It was at the end of a 5-mile stretch of the Kyber section, which is a pretty popular section of river there, that my friends and I have been kayaking for 20 plus years. So I'm pretty familiar with the stretch, and normally you go out with friends. But that day I was coming down from Tahoe, and I was on my own. And I was actually going to chat with this gal and maybe get a ride back up to my car to avoid the 5-mile bike ride that was ahead of me. Well, as I noticed this woman, we both heard the sound of an impact and then a second splash and impact into the river. And I could see the expression on her face and knew that what had happened, and I could hear what had happened. So I got out of my boat and I ran upstream about 200 feet, and there was the vehicle on its side in the river, and these three,
Was it submerged, partially submerged?
Partially
Was it
submerged.
sinking? Was it?
yeah, waist deep. It would shift in the currents of the river. I mean, it was not stable. It was definitely not stable. What was pretty remarkable right off the bat is that these twin 15-year-old girls had been able to get their 4-year-old kid sister out of the car seat, and they were on top of the vehicle, which lay on its side in the American River. The fact that they were even conscious at that point was pretty amazing. And I was probably there in less than a minute. It's only a 200-foot dash upstream. And these girls, they appeared as though they were uninjured. There was not a scratch on them. They were still dry. So they were able to get themselves out of their seatbelts and onto the car before I even showed up. That was pretty remarkable. And then, so I got them to shore as quickly as I could. And then
You got the 4-year-old, the twins ashore.
4-year-old first, because she's the youngest and the lightest, and that's just kind of the protocol, it seems. Usually that's how people, I think, respond. From the EMT classes and stuff like that, that seemed like the appropriate action, to get her to shore first, because she's light and I could get her there quickly. And then the gentleman from the side of the road, I didn't want to set her down by herself, so he came down and I was able to hand her off. And then I worked on getting the 15-year-old twins to shore, which went pretty quickly with no incident at all, really. And then it was time to deal with the wife, whose upper torso was outside of the sunroof, and her legs were inside the vehicle still, and her thighs were there to help support her husband physically, but then her being there, being able to talk to him, was a huge part, I think, of him being able to stay with it and hold on. He went unconscious twice during this short, we're only into this accident now, maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes now.
Was the husband out of the water? Or was he submerged?
He was in his seatbelt. He was out of the water, but his head was touching the water. He was literally suspended more in an upside down situation with a shoulder strap bearing most of his weight. Big man with all that weight pushing against his chest area made it difficult for him to breathe. And so my first reaction was, of course, to try and get him out of there as quickly as I could. But I imagine what may have happened had I done that, and his legs still being caught in the wreckage, it would have released him enough to where his head would have gone submerged, but his legs still would have been trapped. And he was a big man, and the wreckage was so twisted that if I were lucky enough to remove him out of the wreckage with his legs being caught up, it still would have been a big challenge to get him out of the vehicle at that point, especially single-handedly. And it was at that moment that I thought I better slow things down here before I do something that could cost this guy his life. And then I remembered seeing a fire engine as I was kayaking. I saw a fire engine actually drive by on Highway 50, and I yelled to the people on shore, and they had them turn around, and they were there unbelievably quickly. I mean, it was like, it just seemed like hardly a minute or two went by, and they were there. And Chris Clark, who I recognized through work, through showing him houses, he came down the hill and he just immediately got to work. And it was a huge relief because I just wouldn't have been able to save this guy had they not been there. We got the cutters out, the metal cutters, and we set up the generators and hauled this gear down the hill. And now there's 6 of us or 10 of us, quite a few of us now. We kept the top of this vehicle up apart and peel it back, and we were able to get a backboard in under this guy and get him out of there. So that's essentially what happened in a nutshell. Kind of just a summary of it. So it was very intense.
And the car was still inside this whole time?
It was still on its side, and it
concerned about the car.
moved a little bit,
Yeah.
and the firefighter, Chris, actually attached a rope to the vehicle, and initially I didn't know why is he doing this? Well, I guess that's what you do in case it floats away,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of the first things that he did was fasten a rope to the vehicle in case it started to wash downstream. So when they showed up, we were able to remove the wife and give this guy our full attention because he was the one that really, needed help. And so the firefighters being there quickly, and just the luck that they were up there at that time was pretty incredible. And that was another stroke of really good luck in all these circumstances that lined up. It was pretty amazing. A pretty inspirational, cool thing. I'm really happy that it turned out well. Very happy. So
you were able to keep a cool head and kind of collect yourself and evaluate the situation.
The water was
Yeah,
cold, Ron.
I
It was easy
mean-
to keep a cool head.
I was pretty excited. I'll tell you that. I was very excited about what was going on, and part of the whole kayaking thing with our friends is we go out and do these kind of things, and there is some danger involved, and so we sort of we'll set up safety at the bottom of Big Rapids, and it's part of safety is a big part of our kayaking experience, and we have to rely on each other out there to handle some situations sometimes that can be dangerous. So that was a big part of what helped me, but also having taken an EMT class and first aid and working on the river and working as a safety kayaker, having a father that's a surgeon, all those things I think helped me in the situation to be able to help, and most of all though, it was very lucky. It was just, I was there. I was there at the right time, the right place, so it all worked out.
Well,
Yeah.
Mark, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I'm going to get to this here in just a second, but with 30 years in this background and the passion for people that you just mentioned, Chief Hardy, our law enforcement people as well, this is one of those that came together very well. Unfortunately, as those that work in this service know, there's many of them that don't. That, boy, this one worked well, but it still wouldn't have been without your immediate assistance, and I'm sure the family can attest to that. You talked about EMT, you talked about numerous pieces and how you were taught as an EMT for triage and different things on who to get first and those sort of things. All those things I believe you learned in this county through this system that is so great, and this is a classic example of it coming together. So, Mark, in recognition of yourself, Mark Divittorio, for your extraordinary and selfless acts of courage on April 4th, 2013 to protect and save the lives of others without hesitation, we, the County Board of Supervisors, so recognize this date, May 14th, 2013.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.